When challenged with the task of simulating dynamics on a quantum computer, you may ask yourself, how am I going to put my Hamiltonian on the quantum device? In this section of the video, we will try to provide some intuition for how this is done. The problem that we are interested in is the following. Given a 2 to the n by 2 to the n Hamiltonian matrix as input, write it as a weighted sum of tensor products of Pauli matrices. From this problem statement, I hope that it's clear that our objective is therefore to solve for the coefficients of each term in that weighted sum. We'll develop a strategy for how to solve this problem by doing the following. First, we will work through the simplest example, where n equals 1, by solving for the coefficients in the weighted sum for a simple 2 by 2 matrix. Then, in an effort to move towards a general procedure, we will see how things change when we step things up to n equals 2 with a 4 by 4 matrix. Finally, given the comparison between the two previous cases, we'll arrive at an approach for doing this when provided with any 2 to the n by 2 to the n matrix as input. This exercise is useful because the Pauli matrices are ubiquitous in quantum computing, as the 3 non-identity Pauli matrices correspond to common single-qubit gates. This makes them a perfectly suited basis for mapping our Hamiltonians into something that can be used by a qubit-based quantum computer. Before we look at how to use the Pauli matrices to decompose a matrix, it may be useful to first familiarize ourselves with how they act as single-qubit gates. In case you haven't seen them before, these are the 4 Pauli matrices that we will be working with. The 2 by 2 identity matrix, the Pauli X, Pauli Y, and Pauli Z. To gain some intuition for how these matrices act as quantum gates, we'll look at how they operate on a single qubit wave function. We will first look at the X gate. As you can see, the effect of the X gate is to exchange the basis states, or to flip the values of the 2 qubits from 0 to 1 and 1 to 0. For this reason, it is commonly referred to as a bit flip gate. Next is the Z gate. As you can see, the effect of this gate is to flip the sign of the phase or the coefficient for the 1 state, in this case changing it from a positive to a negative. For this reason, it is commonly referred to as a phase flip gate. Finally, we will look at the Y gate. As you can see, the operation of the Y gate is slightly more complex than the previous two. We've accrued a global phase of I, flipped the phase on the 1 state, and also flipped the 2 values of our qubits. As you might be able to see, this bears a resemblance to some combination of the Pauli X and Pauli Z gates. This is because the Pauli Y gate can in fact be written as a product of the two. Its effect is equivalent to first applying a Z gate, followed by the X gate, and finally by multiplying by this global phase of I. Now that we've gained some familiarity for how the Pauli matrices operate as quantum gates, we're just going to quickly emphasize some general properties, in that they are unitary, Hermitian, self-inverse, and the 3 non-identities are traceless. And now, without further ado, it's time to do some solving. Suppose we are given a Hermitian 2 by 2 matrix, with the following matrix elements. We can write it as a weighted sum of the 4 Pauli matrices, where we are now representing each by its identifying index, I, X, Y, and Z, so we don't have to keep carrying around the sigmas. Each term has its own real-valued coefficient, since we assumed our initial matrix is Hermitian. These 4 coefficients are precisely what we'll be solving for. So in order to solve for the coefficients, we will first substitute the Pauli matrices into the expression. Then, we can multiply each by their respective coefficient and sum the terms to get a single matrix. The resulting matrix expression provides us with a system of equations where each element of our initial matrix is equal to some combination of the coefficients. These resulting equations tell us how we can compute the weights for each term of our original Pauli sum from the elements of our input matrix. Now, that wasn't too terrible, but I'm sure you can imagine how much more time-consuming it would be with larger matrices. For example, let's consider the n equals 2 case for writing a 2-qubit Hamiltonian where we are given a 4x4 matrix as input. Following the same procedure as before, we would end up with a set of 16 equations in order to solve for our 16 coefficients of the Pauli sum. Luckily, there is a more direct way to calculate the coefficients, and this can be done with the Hilbert-Schmidt inner product on the space of 2 to the n by 2 to the n matrices. The Hilbert-Schmidt inner product between two given matrices A and B is evaluated by performing matrix multiplication of our two matrices, taking the trace of the resulting matrix product, and multiplying by a sort of normalization factor of 1 over 2 to the n, where n is the number of qubits that we will need to represent the Hamiltonian. To see how the Hilbert-Schmidt inner product can be used in practice, let's consider calculating alpha, the coefficient for the identity term. We can write it in terms of the Hilbert-Schmidt inner product. Then, we evaluate the matrix product. Take the trace and multiply by 1/2. Note that we get the same answer as before. Since that was so easy, let's do another. We can do this again for beta. We express it in terms of the Hilbert-Schmidt inner product. Then, we substitute our matrices in, evaluate the matrix product, take the trace, and multiply by our normalization factor. We can also do the same for gamma and delta. Now that we've done this a few times, it would be good to revisit our expression for the matrix A in terms of the Pauli matrices. We can concisely write this as a sum over the set of our 4 Pauli matrices, with each multiplied by a coefficient specific to that term. We now know that we can calculate that coefficient by evaluating the Hilbert-Schmidt inner product of the ith Pauli matrix and our input matrix A. Now, when we look at this equation, we can see that we'll have to make some changes as we scale up the dimension of our input matrix. To see how things scale, we will step things up a notch by looking at the n equals 2 case, where we're given a 4x4 matrix as input. Following the same procedure as the previous section, we will write our matrix M in terms of its individual matrix elements. Because our matrix is now 4x4, it's worth mentioning that in this case, we will need 2 qubits to represent it in terms of quantum gates. However, our previous expression for the 2x2 case only applies to single qubit operations. Taking this into consideration, it's clear that we will have to update our expression. We need to focus on the components of our expression that are determined by the number of qubits. Specifically, we will now need to do our sum over all possible tensor products of unique combinations of 2 Pauli matrices. Additionally, our Hilbert-Schmidt inner product will now be computed with each of these tensor products of Pauli matrices, which means we also need to update our normalization factor. Finally, we will multiply this coefficient by the 4x4 matrix resulting from the tensor product of those unique combination of two Pauli matrices. Incorporating these amendments gives us this expression. As mentioned before, the sum over all possible unique tensor products of two Pauli matrices results in 16 terms, because each of the ith and jth Pauli matrices can take on 4 possible values. To see how to use this expression for the 2-qubit case, let's consider the calculation of the coefficient for the xz term. Let's first focus on getting the matrix product. To do this, we first evaluate the tensor product of sigma x and sigma z, then matrix multiply this with our input matrix M. This gives us a single 4x4 matrix, which we can then use to evaluate the trace and finally multiply it by our normalization factor. Now, that wasn't too bad. You would just have to do this 15 more times to arrive at our final result. You're welcome to do this by hand, but later in the video we will look at some Python that will implement everything for us. Now, our final task is to arrive at a general expression. To do this, let's first summarize what we've done so far. First, we looked at the simple case of a 2x2 matrix and how we can express it as a weighted sum of Pauli matrices. We then walked through a method to solve for the coefficients the hard way, by solving a system of equations. Then, we introduced the Hilbert-Schmidt inner product and saw how we can use it to iteratively solve for those coefficients. Next, we saw how to amend our expression for the 2-qubit case with a 4x4 matrix. From these two expressions, we'll now try to write a concise expression for the general case of writing an n-qubit Hamiltonian when given a 2 to the n by 2 to the n matrix as input. Just as we saw when updating things from the n equals 1 to the n equals 2 case, we will have to consider the aspects of our expression that reflect the number of That is to say, we will now have to sum over all possible tensor products of unique combinations of n Pauli matrices. Additionally, our Hilbert-Schmidt inner product will be computed between our input matrix and the 2 to the n by 2 to the n matrix resulting from this unique tensor product of Pauli matrices. We'll also have to update our normalization factor. Finally, this coefficient will be multiplied by the 2 to the n by 2 to the n matrix resulting from our unique tensor product of Pauli matrices.